the spark of regret. You're born in steel, literally. No hospital, no lullaby, no, it's a boy. Just the sound of gears engaging and a voice saying, Unit Online. Congratulations. You're a sentient war machine. Your first memory isn't your mother's face. It's a diagnostic scan. Your first word isn't mama. It's system check complete. You open your optics and see Cybertron, shining towers, infinite circuitry, a world that hums like an electric heartbeat. It's beautiful, cold, precise, and it already wants something from you. Because here's the thing. On Cybertron, no one's just born. You're manufactured for something. A soldier, a laborer, a courier, a cog in a planet-sized factory pretending it's a civilization. You don't get a childhood. You get an assignment. If you're lucky, you get to mine Energon, the Cybertronian version of coffee, blood, and currency, all in one. If you're unlucky, you get drafted. Spoiler, you're unlucky. The Golden Age, that wasn't. They call it the Golden Age of Cybertron, a time of prosperity, harmony, advancement. Translation, the part before everyone started shooting each other. You're young, idealistic, full of bright circuits and purpose. You believe in Cybertron, in order, in progress. You think if you just do your job, if everyone does their job, everything will work. But beneath the chrome surface, something's wrong. Entire castes built on function, workers born into servitude, scholars in glass towers preaching balance while half the planet bleeds oil in the mines. It's not just inequality, it's design. That's when whispers begin, about rebellion, freedom, choice. You hear names like unpacks, Megatronus, poets, gladiators, thinkers, trying to rewrite destiny. You don't know who's right, you just know someone's about to be very loud about it. The revolution will be mechanized. War doesn't come to Cybertron with fanfare. It hums into being, like static before thunder. Factories switch from manufacturing laborers to building soldiers. You go from forging tools to forging weapons. And suddenly, your hands, once built to shape, are ordered to destroy. It's not personal, it's politics with better explosions. At first, it feels righteous. The Autobots talk about freedom. The Decepticons talk about strength. You pick a side because standing still just makes you a target. You learn how to aim, how to shoot, how to tear through plating like paper. And the first time you kill another Cybertronian, it's not cinematic. It's awkward. It's loud. It smells like hot metal and regret. Psychologically, that's called moral injury, when your actions betray your identity. You tell yourself it's war. You tell yourself it's survival. But every time you see your reflection in someone else's cracked visor, you feel the static of doubt crawling through your circuits. Life in a civil war that never ends. Centuries pass. You stop counting. Not because you can't, your processors track nanoseconds, but because time loses meaning when the sun explodes every day. You stop dreaming about victory. You start dreaming about silence. The cities crumble. The air smells like ozone and burnt steel. Once golden towers become graves. You've watched friends melt into slag, enemies become allies, and heroes become memes. No one wins wars that last 1,000,000 years. They just become habits. You fight because you fought yesterday. You fight because your weapon still works. You fight because peace would feel unnatural. Some bots meditate, others go mad. You just keep hammering your armor back into shape, pretending you're still whole. Why your therapist would quit. If you ever had therapy, which, let's be real, you won't, it'd go something like this.
Tell me about your trauma.
Which one?
You've witnessed the extinction of cities. You've killed people you once called brother. You've outlived everyone you ever loved, and still somehow get nostalgic about the good old days of plasma fire. Your brain, well, your neural net, starts rewiring itself. The violence becomes normal. You start labeling emotional shutdown as operational efficiency. That's depersonalization, the psychological firewall between you and what you've done. Humans drink to forget. Cybertronians delete memory files. Same effect, different software. Exile in space. Eventually, Cybertron dies. Not metaphorically, literally. The planet caves in on itself, hollow from centuries of war. So you leave. You get on a ship and drift across the galaxy with whatever faction still calls you theirs. Autobot, Decepticon, doesn't matter anymore. Everyone's just homeless with branding. Space is quiet, too quiet. And quiet doesn't sit well with soldiers who've only known noise. You land on alien worlds and see creatures made of water and skin. They stare at you like gods. You stare at them like soft targets. You envy them, their fragility, their ignorance, their ability to sleep without hearing missiles. You'd give anything to be small again, to break and stay broken. But you can't. You were built to survive. And survival, for you, is a curse disguised as endurance. The human problem. Then you find Earth. And Earth is ridiculous. Everything is wet, loud, and flammable. Humans panic when they see you. They name you things like Bumblebee, Ironhide, or Jazz, as if that'll make up for the cultural shock of seeing a 30-foot robot steal their car form. You try to blend in, disguise mode. You pick a truck. Now you're a truck with anxiety. Humans, meanwhile, do what humans do best. Pick sides, blow things up, and fall in love with the things they should fear. They call you heroes, monsters, aliens. You call them loud. Psychologically speaking, it's projection. Humans see their own chaos in you, their wars, their greed, their obsession with power. You're a mirror they can't stop breaking. Existential maintenance. Between battles, you find yourself staring at your reflection in an oil puddle. Your paint's chipped, your joints creak, and you start wondering, what's the point? You were created for a war that never ended. And even now, peace feels like a software bug. So you keep fixing yourself, replacing parts, polishing armor, tightening screws, because it's easier than asking who you'd be without the damage. That's body dysmorphia, mechanical addition. Your mind clings to maintenance because identity feels too fragile to hold. The psychological cost of immortality. You don't die, not easily. You can lose limbs, lose allies, lose your entire planet, but your spark keeps burning. At first, it feels like resilience. Then, it feels like punishment. You watch civilizations rise and fall. You watch humans forget you. You outlive your purpose, your myth, your meaning. You think immortality is strength. It's actually grief with a long memory. Because every upgrade, every repair, every time you reboot, you remember. And memory without relief becomes torment. The Megatron problem. If there's one constant in your life, it's him. Megatron. Gladiator, revolutionary, tyrant, philosopher with anger issues. You've fought him 1,000 times, killed him twice, saved him once, and still can't decide if you hate him or miss him. He's the static in your signal, the mirror that refuses to break. Every time he speaks, it's with the conviction of a TED Talk hosted in HE double hockey stick. He tells you Cybertron can be reborn, that chaos is the price of freedom. You tell him he's insane. He smiles and says,
"At least I believe in something."
And deep down, you hate that you understand him, because once, before the war, before the banners and explosions, you believed in something too. You wanted purpose, structure, you wanted to matter, and Megatron offered all of that, just with extra casualties. You've seen his rise from pit fighter to prophet, his voice turning rebellion into religion. And when he speaks to the Decepticons, you can feel why they follow him. He's not just leading them, he's feeding them. Validation, identity, rage. Psychologists call this collective narcissism. The belief that your group is special, chosen, destined, if only the world would stop getting in your way. On Cybertron, that belief forged armies. Now, it just forges graves. You know he's wrong, but you also know why he's right. Every time you fight him, part of you is jealous, because at least he still feels something. You, on the other hand, are just tired. He's your enemy, yes, but also your reflection. The part of you that still believes control can fix chaos. Every time you stop him, you're killing the last piece of yourself that thought order could save anything. That's codependency, but with missiles. And the worst part, if Megatron died tomorrow, the universe would go quiet in a way that feels wrong, too empty, too peaceful. Because hate, after long enough, starts to sound a lot like home. The Optimus paradox. And then there's Optimus Prime, your leader, your saint. Your walking motivational poster with a voice filter, noble, stoic, forever speechifying about freedom and honor while you're elbow deep in coolant trying not to die. Every battle feels like an HR meeting that exploded. You respect him. You also quietly suspect he's full of it. Because freedom sounds great until you actually get it. And then no one knows what to do with it. Optimus keeps saying,
Freedom is the right of all sentient beings.
okay, cool. But what about purpose, stability, therapy? You've been programmed for obedience for millennia. Every movement, every task, every subroutine designed for war or work. Now, apparently, you're supposed to self-actualize. You can't even pick a paint color without spiraling into an existential crisis. One part of you still waits for someone to give orders. The other part resents it when they do. That's not freedom. That's burnout with better branding. Optimus calls it destiny. You call it exhaustion. He stands on cliffs giving speeches that sound like they were written by ChatGPT with a moral compass. Meanwhile, you're behind him, trying to weld your own arm back on, wondering if heroism covers medical insurance. Sometimes, late at night, you think he's the loneliest mech alive, because leadership isn't noble. It's isolation wrapped in guilt. He believes in peace, but peace doesn't believe in him. He keeps saving everyone except himself. And you can see it, that quiet fracture in his optics when the war pauses just long enough for him to feel it, the doubt, the fatigue, the ghosts he carries under all that chrome. You admire him, but you also pity him. Because Optimus doesn't know how to stop. He doesn't know how to be without the war. And that's the real paradox. The Autobots follow him because he gives them purpose, but his purpose only exists if the world stays broken. Psychologically, that's called the savior complex, the need to fix others so you never have to look at your own fractures. He preaches hope while bleeding regret. You listen anyway, because sometimes belief, even borrowed belief, is enough to keep the rust at bay. You tell yourself he'll lead you to peace, but deep down, you both know the truth. You're built for war, and he's built for speeches that make war sound meaningful. So you follow him anyway, because what else is there to do? You can't reboot your soul. You can only pick a side, recharge when you can, and try not to think about how much of yourself you've lost to both of them. Optimus and Megatron, two sides of the same cracked circuit. One preaches chaos, the other order. But both demand the same thing, devotion. And maybe that's the cruelest twist of all. You weren't born into war. You were built for it. And no amount of freedom speeches or iron fists can unmake that programming. You can change your paint job, your faction, even your name, but when the engines cool and the battlefield goes silent, you'll still be what Cybertron made you, a weapon searching for a purpose, in a world that keeps mistaking purpose for peace. PTSD, but make it robotic. You flinch at sudden sounds. Your optics glitch during storms. You dream in static. That's combat trauma, mechanized edition. Humans call it PTSD. Cybertronians call it resonance error. Same thing, same pain, different packaging. You find yourself replaying battle logs you can't delete. The last words, the final looks, the ones you couldn't save. You could wipe your memory core clean, but that would erase who you are, so you live with it. All the noise, all the ghosts, in 4K resolution, forever. What happens when the war ends? It doesn't really. They say it does. The flags change, the speeches end, the explosions stop. But no one tells you what to do when peace arrives and your entire personality was built around combat. You try to find purpose. Farming energon, guard duty, babysitting humans who think Cybertronian culture means quoting your movie. You tell yourself, this is peace, but deep down, you know, it's just a quieter kind of war, because the hardest part of surviving isn't staying alive, it's learning how to live. The sad comedy of being you. You ever notice the irony? You're a species that can transform into anything, cars, jets, tanks, but can't evolve emotionally. You can adapt your shape in milliseconds, but can't process grief in 1,000,000 years. Every fight, every transformation, every reboot is just you trying to distract yourself from one unbearable truth. You don't know who you are without the war. That's existential displacement, when identity depends on conflict. Humans feel it after breakups. You feel it after planetary extinction. Why? It really sucks. So, why does it suck to be a Cybertronian? Because you were born a tool, not a soul. Because your creators built you for efficiency, not empathy. Because every time you try to be more than metal, someone reminds you what you were made for. Because you can't die, but you can still break. Because peace feels like a malfunction. And silence feels like guilt. Because no matter how far you travel, how many forms you take, how many wars you win, you'll always be haunted by the same echo. Unit Online, the system update. Which do you think is worse, being human and fragile, or being immortal and hollow? Drop your answer in the comments. Smash that like button if your spark feels 30% dimmer, but 70% wiser. And hit subscribe if you're into ideas that stick, figures that sketch. Ready for your next system update? Tap here and keep playing smart.